ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. Today we're checking out the Maxsun Z370 iCraft Gaming Motherboard. So this is a cheaper Chinese motherboard, but is it any good? Well, that's what we're going to find out here today. And let's jump straight into it with the key features. So of course, this takes all your 8000 series Intel CPUs. I tested it with my i7-8700K. Now it takes up to 64 gigabytes of dual channel DDR4 memory at up to 3200 megahertz. It has a decent amount of RGB lighting on it, which some people are going to like. And the board overall looks pretty good, but it does look kind of similar to a certain MSI motherboard. That's all I'm going to say. Now audio-wise, it's coming with 7.1 channel audio, although I did have to download the Realtek drivers manually because I wasn't getting any audio. That's something I haven't had to do since like the Vista days. It's all in Chinese as well, so it's really hard for a Western person to do it. Yeah, so just copy what you're seeing me do on the screen and that will get you the download. But yeah, it's a bit confusing. I wish they would have put this in English. Now let's talk about the layout and let's work from top to bottom. So in the top left, like normal, we have an 8-pin CPU power connector. VRM-wise, coming with a 15 digi-power phase design with big heat sinks, actually quite impressive. Then tucked between the VRM and the RAM slots is the CPU fan header. And that's an interesting spot to put it. The pump header is actually the more sort of open area. I wish maybe the CPU fan header was up there with it, but you know, it is what it is. Now it has non-reinforced RAM slots, but it does have 4. I saw some people online saying they thought it only had 3, so I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it definitely has 4. Now it has onboard buttons, which is always a good thing. I really like this. It's really helpful if you have this on a test rig or maybe using this for a mining rig. It's really useful to have those onboard buttons. Now the motherboard power connector is right beside the USB 3.0 header, which the plastic actually came off of when I was trying to review this. So that was interesting to see. I've never had that happen to me before. Then you go down, you have the 6 SATA 6 ports, all right angled, which is quite handy. Now PCI wise, it's coming with 3 PCIe times 1 slots and 3 PCIe times 16 slots with steel reinforcement. That's really good to see. It also has 3 M.2 slots, and that's also good to see. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with how they did this part. Then back down to the bottom right, we find another fan header and the speaker header if you want to have some beeps. And then we have the front panel header beside the debug readout, which is always super handy to have. Every motherboard should have one. Clear CMOS button beside an LED header. Then you just have your 2 standard USB 2.0 headers and a COM port. 2 more fan headers, a SPDIF header, and your front panel audio header. Now let's go around to the back then and check out the I/O. Let's work from left to right. So you see 2 USB 2.0 ports and a PS2 port. A cutout there for a wireless antenna above a DVI port. Display port and an HDMI port. Then you get USB 3.1 Type A and Type C ports, an Ethernet jack above 2 USB 3.0 ports, and all your audio connections. So a bit more of a minimal I/O, but some people won't really mind that, but other people definitely will. Now let's head over to the BIOS. And this is definitely the weakest part of the motherboard, that is for sure. So first of all, it looks terrible. It looks like an intern made it as a side project. I'm sorry, but it's just, it's just what it looks like. Second is the fact that I have no idea how to do a BIOS update with it. I looked everywhere, so unless I'm just missing something obvious, I couldn't find it. Luckily, it was already updated to the latest BIOS, so I suppose that was a good thing. Third is that it's very difficult to overclock. You have like very few adjustments that you can make, but the biggest problem is you can't see your adjustments. There's no readout for them. Every other motherboard has a readout, so you can see what kind of overclock you're doing. Even with your memory setting the different XMP profiles, it'll usually tell you what it is. This one, you just have no idea. You'd have to kind of like boot into Windows, pray you got the right settings, and then check, and then go restart and go back into BIOS and make your adjustments that way. It is bizarre. I don't know how they could miss something this obvious. So overall, this is probably the worst BIOS I've ever used in the entirety of Tech Showdown. Luckily for Maxsun, a BIOS is something that can be updated, so this is something they could fix over time. And in saying that, non-overclockers probably won't care because it still worked fine as it was. Which brings us now to the conclusion. And what do I make of the Maxsun iCraft Z370 gaming motherboard? So with a retail price of $143 US, this is definitely a cheap Z370 and it looks great. compared to other ones at the same price point, it looks much better in my mind anyway. And the features are actually pretty good. It's got a solid layout as well. I really like that. The I/O is a bit more on the minimal side, which some people are going to take issue with, and the BIOS is just terrible. So if you plan on doing any sort of overclocking, then absolutely stay away, because it's just horrible to use unless you're going to do it in Windows with some sort of software, which I probably wouldn't recommend. I would just stay away. However, if you're someone that's not going to overclock, you don't care about overclocking, then this motherboard will be just fine for you. Honestly, just keep in mind the cons that I mentioned earlier, but if you're fine with them and you're not going to be overclocking, this is a great looking motherboard with some pretty good features on it at a low price point. So you non-overclockers can definitely check this motherboard out. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below of what you think about this motherboard. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.